Hi, everybody. This is John Wolfert, and this is the latest installment of the Technical Steering Committee for the Baseline Protocol Community, June 4th, 2020. And we have a good crew of people here today. We got Connor, we got Hudson, we got Karthik, we've got Kyle, we've got Stefan, we got Zach, we have Brian and Andrew. Andrew, welcome. And unfortunately, my camera is not working right now. It looks like an update problem on my Windows machine, so you won't see me today. Maybe somebody else, maybe everybody else can go on camera. Otherwise, it's going to be a pretty sad-looking. So the two items for today's agenda that were asked for, I think Stefan wanted some time. And Sam is going to go over the engineering tasks that are at hand. And I think Kyle and George and some folks will go over the upcoming demo that will be released on the 9th. And I think that's it. Anybody else have any other issues? Okay, so here's the board, and here we have, this is the one that Sam's going to go over. Sam, maybe you want to take us into that right now. And if you want, I can stop sharing and you can share screen if you like.
Yeah, if you don't mind, let me share and I can click through it. Okay. Yeah, so this is the baseline roadmap repo. I think a couple people have taken stabs at kind of cleaning this up and organizing the issues related to baseline. So was just trying to chip in and come up with something that made sense to everybody. So one of the things was in here with the projects and epics. Seems like there's a lot of placeholders and empty labels with not a lot of content in the epics and issues. So was trying to maybe get rid of some of the clutter so you don't have to sift through so many different topics to actually see what's being worked on. But was kind of planning on dropping a bunch of the engineering work that's currently in flight into this engineering priorities label. So right now, one of the big ones is protocol abstraction and generalization. So a couple different issues that fall into that bucket. But yeah, the main idea was keep all the issues, which are direct engineering tasks within the baseline repo, and then all the epics and kind of high-level buckets would be defined in this baseline roadmap repo. So yeah, and then this would have the deadlines and stuff, so somebody could get the real high-level view of what's going on. And then the other thing is on the board. I think where John and I landed. Select everything here. And open to feedback on any of this, but what kind of made sense for us, I think we eliminated some of these different pipelines or big categories here, but new epics and new issues still exist here. So that's kind of, when something first gets created, it would fall into one of these buckets. And then the idea would be, should move those into either Icebox, backlog, or in progress. So like Icebox is stuff that's way on the back burner, and backlog is something we intend to work on soon but haven't started yet. Then in progress is what's already been started. So was trying to declutter everything and get it as simple as possible. So that's where we're at right now, but open to feedback if anybody else has any other ideas.
So just thinking about this was in terms of the prioritization, and this is more from how we've typically do things. We'll have like we might have on hold for items that are on hold, and then we have our backlog is like our kind of all of our everything. So it's kind of like maybe what the Icebox is plus the backlog here, but then we have sort of a prioritized list. So we kind of know, what are what's kind of the master list of everything we've got there, and then we know these are the items we've actually gone to, put in priority order, and then this is what we're working on right now. This stuff, say, on hold because we're waiting on someone else, and this stuff is done. So I mean, I think with the I've not heard the phrase icebox used on these sorts of boards before, and I guess when I see icebox, I'm thinking, is that something that's on hold, or is it some or something else? And so it wasn't immediately obvious to me that was the case.
Yeah, icebox. I don't remember the first time I encountered the icebox pipeline was probably Pivotal. I think Pivotal Tracker. It was a default setting was icebox, and Pivotal was very, very prescriptive on how they wanted to handle Agile.
Yeah.
And I kind of got into Agile heavily around those the Kent Beckians and those kinds of folks, and so. The icebox and backlog, the backlog is something that you should be able to groom in a session, right? So it's not supposed to be endlessly long. Whereas the icebox is sort of stuff that it's on hold. It's just not being worked. And we don't want to clutter up the backlog with it as we go through. Now, of course, in an open source community, everybody's fooling around with their own kind of backlog, right? Kyle and team are working on something. Somebody else is working on something. I think Sam and I had this conversation yesterday about whether we should use the projects board in GitHub, which I have not used extensively, but maybe we can, maybe that's something because there's so many different projects going on that they could use the project board. At the same time, we don't want to increase complexity for everybody. There's already enough complexity. I think there's been more than one conversation about whether we should dump ZenHub altogether and just use GitHub issues. And I wouldn't be against that if folks were feeling it. I do kind of like the roadmap especially for the SSC, because it's a quick way of seeing everything if we can keep it clean. Yeah, so on the ZenHub board, if Sam, you go back to the board, this would be for effectively this is one big board, and you can use filters to get you can label, oh well, this is the Dynamics, Microsoft Dynamics / SAP project, and you can use the ZenHub board and just filter for those labels or what have you. That's one way to go. But yeah, it does kind of imply that there's one big backlog, and because this project has a lot of diversity to it, there are different constituencies doing different backlogs.
Yeah, I don't know how to best prioritize issues. I know in the past we've just said that you can kind of you can move these around, so like the one closest to the top is highest priority. There may be a more sophisticated method to do that.
So, well, while we're kind of pondering that, Sam, can you take us through the one item on the board that really we set up to be focused on what the maintainers are primarily thinking about right now, which is the init core?
Oh, yeah, that's this epic here. This is one of the ones I know is in progress. I know Kyle and Karthik and others have been contributing to it. So it created a couple issues, and there's still needs to be a few more created that I know people are working on. But yeah, this one's currently in flight, and it's on the init core branch. So whenever that one gets merged, it'll close several of these issues.
All right, and so I think Kyle, you're working on this. Karthik, you're working on this. Do you have anything to say about where we're at with that particular? We've got what 4 issues that or 3 in particular that Sam has put up. The roadmap here suggests that we might be able to get that done by the targeting a time frame around what does that look like? Yeah, mid-month, right?
Yeah, I put it at the end of next week. I don't know how realistic that is. I just took a stab at it.
I need to search for it.
Hmm?
I need to look at the issues.
Yeah, so everybody take a look at what I like about this is that so the issues are on the baseline repo in the engineering tasks, or the engineering tasks are in the issues that are in the baseline repo, but then they're connected up to this epic called protocol abstraction and generalization, which is a big topic for the maintainers right now. And so the discrete items are in there. Now there's only 2 of them, which means we still have some work to do, because I'm pretty sure there's not just 2 items being worked.
Okay, well, that's all I had, John, unless you want to see anything else specifically.
Yeah, no, thanks, Sam. So what do people think? I mean, is this a good way of keeping track of the work, or is it the wrong way of thinking about it? I've got thoughtful looks from Hudson, so that's
I was going to say, apart from my own lack of familiarity with the freeze, yeah, it's all pretty standard stuff, and that that's kind of in line with it. So yeah, no objections.
Yeah, I think I'm good. Without having delved into it too much in the past, I can't have a strong opinion either way.
Well, I think we should thank Sam for taking some effort to do some house cleaning here. And
yeah, totally.
Yep. What I'm mindful of here is that if it requires a lot of house cleaning, and if people aren't feeling like it's an easy thing to be compliant with, then it's not useful. So I think we have to keep an eye on that, right? If at the same time it's easy not to have good tradecraft when it comes to you get into developing, and the last thing you want to do is write about what you're developing, right? So writing up those issues properly and getting them hooked up to things is who wants to do that? So just building in the culture of doing that, but it also is helpful if it's easy, right? And it's something that people are familiar with. So Hudson, I wonder if do you feel like this is something that the rank and file folks are going to feel comfortable doing if we can teach it, put it on a video, or is it do we still need some work to make it simpler?
Still need some work to make it simpler, and I don't have the answers right now for it. But yeah, and that's always the challenge of tools that aren't like incredibly widespread, I think.
We can always go to Jira.
just shoot ourselves in the foot some more. No, just kidding. Nothing against Jira. Yeah, I don't have a super strong opinion. I'm just thinking.
Okay. Hey, Brian, we've been working on these kinds of things together. What's your feeling? Do you think that ZenHub is worth continuing to use, or do you think that we should just kind of blow down to straight up GitHub with issues and labels?
I think we should keep going with ZenHub and what we've got just a little while longer. It just may take a little while to get the cadence down, but we'll get there.
Okay. Well, I guess maybe Sam and I will continue. And again, thank you, Sam, for stepping up to that. And in fact, if there was ever an active that somebody who's voting in September for TSC would want to look at and say somebody deserves being on the TSC, doing the cleaning of the repo would definitely be would be something that would get my vote. Yeah, that's I guess we'll stick with the ZenHub, and we'll just keep on cleaning it up and trying to get it to, by next time, have it really tight. Anybody doing work, Kyle and Karthik and stuff, and folks, if you're in there, please try to get those, the issues that you're working on connected up. And now what we have is this nice protocol abstraction epic on the roadmap. It's really easy to connect it to it. Does everybody know how to do that? Does anybody not know how to do it? Say you create a new issue to track your work in baseline, in the /baseline repo. Are you comfortable with how to hook that up to the epic? Anybody not? Everybody's good? Cool. All right, so yeah, let's do more of that. I know there's more issues coming up, and so let's just assume that from the perspective of the TSC, if there's an issue in the baseline repo that isn't connected to an epic that surfaces up to the dashboard, it doesn't actually exist. Fair comment?
So it shouldn't be connected to anything even after the fact, or are you saying not connected with the TSC?
Well, at least from the TSC's perspective, in terms of governance and in terms of review and in terms of being able to know that something's going on. Maybe you don't want people to know that you're working on something very much right now, right? So maybe you don't want to surface it to the top. There's lots of issues that you can put in there. But
yeah, that sounds like a good plan.
Yeah, if it's becoming priority enough that it needs to get prioritized, and it's not connected to an epic that's inside one of these buckets, then it doesn't exist from our perspective. Okay, so moving from there to the next obvious thing is maybe Kyle and team and Karthik and folks can go through the protocol abstraction and generalization activity. How are we doing on that? It gates a lot of other work. So maybe you can take us through what's going on with that, please.
Yeah, sure. So in terms of the abstraction and generalization, I think that the goal is to get init core to the point where we can have it stable and merged by the end of the month. We actually cut the first baseline protocol core NPM package this morning. Sam and I did. So I registered the app baseline protocol NPM organization, I guess. This was a month or two ago, just to sort of have it. We may need to get with Jory about how to transfer that to Oasis. Happy to do that, whenever. So yes, so Sam is using the first core package that's been pushed in NPM as of this morning. So that's pretty exciting. This is the first step, though, towards a handful of packages that have been informed by work done as a result of the SAP and Dynamics integration, and then still sort of cleaning things up in support of, based on those learnings, but also in support of George's demo with Google Sheets and Dynamics. I think that'll be pretty interesting. And Karthik, if you have anything to add here, if there's anything I missed, I think that's sort of the idea is to hopefully have a PR open, at least maybe like a do not merge PR open sometime as early as early part of next week. I think that's possible. I think that PR will be open for some time, or maybe we'll just. I think a PR would make sense that we can start to get all the maintainers' eyes on it. Yeah, Karthik, did I miss anything there?
Yeah, so I think as Kyle was mentioning, most of our work is currently based on how we are packaging the entire baseline specification itself. So as Kyle was pointing out, a DB integration is one aspect that we are leveraging from our experience with how, as part of the POC, the integration was done for SAP versus Dynamics, as well as a separate way to deal with baseline messaging services and so on, with privacy services and so on and so forth.
Anything that you guys are running? Are there blockers that you're running into? Anything? And this is this will be on YouTube. So, is there anything that that you'd like to see people chip in and help on? This is, if you were putting up a PSA or an ad for, hey, best person in the world on this thing, please help. What are there any things like that that you'd like to see?
And I'd say I've been a little bit of a bottleneck just in terms of the demo support. With that said, I mean, the resulting work has been very valuable work. It's definitely going to be going in, and Karthik has actually picked up some stuff, some branches that I have that are sort of close to being able to get it integrated with that integration branch. So it's helpful. But yeah. It's coming along really well. Just need to ship it.
Well, let's push for another couple of minutes on that, on Kyle, on what the implications of these changes will be. This is TSC. People are looking at this. So this is there are any number of projects going on. I've heard of several big companies now doing secret projects of their own. And if I was a developer on that, I'd be wanting to look at, keep an eye on what's going on with these changes. So what might be the implications of the changes for me, and how I'm going to need to react if I'm doing a particular project?
Yeah. Well, my thought on that would be that it's just going to be a lot easier and more clear to read the code. Radish, the Radish PSC it's a PSC. It's not really something that you can very clearly read and understand necessarily. It's not something that you can really unit test. That there's no really shared component. The architecture really, I think, comes into focus a lot more with the baseline protocol core packaging that's been stood up. I think there's I think there's the generalized circuit work that's sort of sets the stage for being able to do a lot more stuff on the zero knowledge side.
Are there some practical things like people are going to want to look at, for example, it's going to go into the baseline protocol folder, right? So you're going to be looking in the repo, not at the Radish 34
right.
code, but now you're going to be importing from baseline protocol, right? Or baseline.
Yeah, I think it's baseline / core. Yeah, so I think it's center baseline / core.
So after the merge from init core into master, sometime mid-month-ish this month, there will be developers are going to want to look to importing stuff and working with that folder in the repo, right?
Yeah, the packages are already there, but they'll be a little bit more fleshed out, and actual NPM packages will start to get populated. And one of them sort of got stood up. Yeah, I'd say closer to the end of the month is when I'd say we'll probably be able to push additional NPM packages. But otherwise, what you said, I think is accurate. Yeah.
Terrific. Okay. Yeah. So closer to the end of the month. That's good to know. We should probably get that on the record. Obviously, things take the time that they take, so it's not, but it's good to communicate where we're calling the ball.
That's the goal.
Okay. Anything else on this topic? Okay. Next topic. So we've gone through the roadmap or the repo. The other top item that I was made aware of is the demo that's coming out on the 9th. Again, this is on YouTube, so we're not going to scoop ourselves on the demo itself, but it might be great to have some review of the code. So again, Kyle, I guess anybody else from that team on there, you want to say a few words about that and call to action if there is one for people to review or test or do anything like that? It's an exciting.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's very clever. I think George and team are gonna shoot the video over the weekend, and yeah, there will be some code that's pushed before. I need to get with George. There's definitely going to be some code pushed. I'm going to help with the documentation as needed. But yeah, there will be something to review for sure. Probably Monday.
Terrific. By the way, yeah, so that's you know, we had a very good event, a couple of events this week. One was the Mainnet event, where a bunch of speakers talked about stuff. You guys were on that. Several folks from this call were on it. And we had many people in a session with one of the big FANG companies. I won't say, because this is on YouTube, I won't say which one it is, but that was just a fantastic meeting. And many developers that we're hopeful will join the effort from there. So that was kind of interesting. And I think that the demo will speak to some of that kind of stuff, right? So so everybody keep an eye on the June 9th. It will be the demo release. And if anybody wants to help out making sure that's well tested and well looked at beforehand, please get in touch with Kyle or George Spasov, who are both on the Slack. Okay, so those are all the key items. I'm going to share my screen again and go back over to the dashboard. And now we're at the time of the show where we walk through, you know, the prioritization of stuff. So we've got deployment and ops. It doesn't have anything in it yet. Documentation. So I think we have a new chore for documentation, which is going to be, along with the init core, we're going to need more documentation work on that, right? When init core pushes, we'll have to change some docs.
Yes.
Okay. So we're going to want to see, you know, we're going to want somebody on that. So I'll put that on init core docs changes. One other point I'll make up on the documentation issue is that right now, and this is top of my list of things, second most top thing to work on right now in the next couple of days, is to research and decide on what to do with Gitbook. As you may know, Gitbook is down right now. We were reviewing Gitbook this week to determine whether or not it will really work, if it's really working for us, insofar as the fact that we don't, right now, the Gitbook SaaS system that pushes the website is, you know, pushes from Gitbook. So if you have an account on Gitbook and you're authorized into our Gitbook instance with Oasis, you can push changes immediately to the website without going through review. I don't love that. I don't think anybody does. So we have to work on that so that it goes into our repo and either goes through the standard maintainer review for changes, or we set up a secondary repo and have some kind of modification to that. At least say one or two people have to, you know, approve a change. But it's right now it's not under good governance, and any changes to the Gitbook or GitHub, the docs folder in the master branch of the baseline repo, that was a mouthful. There's nothing hooked up to make those changes happen on the website. So it's fairly urgent need to make sure that gets resolved, so that we don't have that, so that we don't have the risk of anybody trying to change documentation and wondering why it never happened. Comments, questions, thoughts?
In Gitbook, there's a webhook you can do to GitHub that makes it bidirectional. I don't know how. So basically what I mean by that is you could go into GitHub and it has like a markdown file or whatever of the contents of that specific page, and you go change that, and then once it's approved, you push it to whatever branch. So let's say we have like a branch that's called drafts, and you're writing an update to one of the pages. You then push that to master, and then Gitbooks automatically takes what's on master, the latest there, and moves it. So if you wanted to make a whole repo for documentation, you could have that repo be dedicated to documentation so you can edit it through GitHub and not Gitbooks directly, is what I'm reading. But I would need to look into it a little further to see if I'm not missing anything.
Yeah, we did that. In fact, we had the GitHub integration. If my screen's sharing properly, you're seeing it right here. And the problem is this. One is that, again, I can push anything to the website itself comes, unless there's something we're missing, a trick, comes directly from the Git that is being run by the Gitbook SaaS, not our GitHub repo.
Okay.
Right. So yeah, you can do a two-way integration so that anything pushed to our GitHub repo is then synced to Gitbook's Git. But the first time around, and Brian did a lot of work to try to make this, to fix this. And maybe Brian, you can say a few words about it.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. That's how it works. So we would need to change. I think we talked to Gitbook, and we may just need to follow up with them. Although admittedly, they're probably pretty busy putting out fires right now, so maybe today's not the best day to contact customer support. But we may have to go to like another kind of workflow, maybe where we could deploy the website to via GitHub pages, and then we could align the Git workflow and the administrative side of like who can change what in the approval process directly with the deployment process. So if not GitHub pages, maybe like a Netlify or one of those automated kind of CDN deployment systems. Cloudflare has one too. Like we use that for the website. The actual baseline website is the GitHub repo, and use Hugo and edit it locally. You push to GitHub, that gets approved and merged in, and then it gets automatically deployed out. So that's kind of more in line with, I think, what we kind of want to do.
Yeah, I think would anybody disagree with the prospect that the ideally we want the website docs to be definitively what is on the master branch of the repo, or a repo. I mean, whether we leave it inside the /baseline repo or some other repo in our org, we want it to be under that kind of control, right?
I agree with that.
Yeah,
I think where there may be a challenge with Gitbook, because this was from some of my reading recently, was that it used to be like an open source project, and then they basically made it proprietary and pushed everyone onto the Gitbook platform. So like the npm package is it's 2 years old for Gitbook. So in terms of the discussed approach where you've got like a documentation repo, and then you push to that, and then it updates the documentation portal. That's exactly how we do things on our side as well. But I think we're going to hit problems trying to do it with Gitbook. It could be I've missed something here, but that's I ended up using ViewPress. And then you can plug that into Netlify or GitHub pages or whatever else, and do the docs that way, which does kind of use that whole thing of you've got to mark down files, and then can update it fairly easily that way.
well, that's good advice. I haven't heard of ViewPress, but certainly something I can look into. I think that's, if I can kind of imagine what ViewPress does, what we liked about Gitbooks is the editing interface, and then it makes it very approachable and easy. So if you can get that from, what was the name again? I just said it, but I totally forgot. what you call it, plugin?
As ViewPress. I'll send you just a link to our docs portal we recently created, because I think that's at least helpful so people can see.
Yeah, that's good advice. Thank you. Yeah, we'll maybe I'll explore that route. Maybe just follow up with you.
All right.
Sure.
So there's a piece of work here to do on that, and to get it. I mean, I have quite enjoyed working with Gitbook's interfaces, as Brian said, but I also don't want to get drunk with power, knowing that I can make any changes I want whenever I want. There should be a review process. So
yeah, and also because it's also kind of confusing. I mean, there was a PR. I mean, I agree with what he said, and then also I'd like to add that I think it also introduces some confusion, because there was a PR that came in this morning for a change to add something to the docs, and that came into the repo, and then now that has to go through the standard, review process, which may take some time. I mean, it's a simple.
Okay, well then what you're saying is that it's happened.
We kind of have two different workflows for this. So that's the point of confusion. So
yeah, after all the fooling around, I took the GitHub integration off, so there's not even that right now.
oh, okay.
So yeah, that change will never happen unless. So what I was worried about apparently has happened. That a change to the docs has come in through the .md files on the repo, and unless we do something about it, will never show up on the website. So to maintainers, Brian and others, keep an eye out for any changes to docs until we resolve this, and let's make sure that we manually get those integrated appropriately. So so basically call me if you see anything, if I miss it.
All right. Well, I think we could try maybe to fast track this and get it resolved quickly and get something going. I mean, we have maybe by the next week, or within a week or two, let's try to have a decision, get off it, get books, and streamline our process here.
Yeah, let's endeavor not to leave next week without having resolved it. Okay, it's on my personal list to do, and I know Brian, you're in on this as well, so we'll figure it out. And Jory is sick today, hopefully not sick for very long, and we'll work with her on resolving. Okay, let's walk through the rest of this stuff. So we worked over engineering priorities nicely, specifications, functional and non-functional. This work has not really begun properly yet. I think there's been lots of really good demo work going on, and I think that when a init core pushes, when it merges to master, I think that that will be the signal for a lot of this work to kick off. And we have people who are willing to help us on it in the standards community. Another thing I'd like to mention is that Chet Ensign, who I think, Connor, you probably know pretty well, and team at Oasis are standing by to give us a sort of an education session on doing the specifications work and where it can go. I don't know how many people here are aware of the strengths of Oasis when it comes to where we can put standards in. I mean, so they work with major standards bodies, and being an official Oasis standard is something that we can strive for as we become more mature. There's a whole process to it. It's quite formal, and it results in things like IEEE and W3C and other kinds of insertions. So we have real professionals working on, that we can work with on that when we're ready.
Yeah. Well, how soon should we do that? I feel like we should probably start. Or is that what you're saying? We should start on that soon?
From where I sit, it seems like a nice, neat thing to just say, when the init core pushes, we can have a working session on taking a look at how that progression is taking us towards a standard that we can articulate.
I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, that's okay. We can wait because that's coming soon. So let's do that. I would say we try to get that that ball rolling because I've just been getting a lot of. I added intercom to the website and documentation to kind of catch the edge of the funnel of folks who are just passing through and try to pull them into the community and talk to them, mostly to answer questions.
I wondered who did that. All right, so you get credit. That's awesome.
I've experienced
Well
it firsthand.
What was that? Oh yeah, yeah. So we did chat, Nick. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
I knew it was you because you used. What was it? Oh man, what was the word you always used? I'm totally drawing a blank. It was like nice, Trey Cool. I was like, oh, that's Nick.
Yeah, it was Trey Cool. Yes, it was very cool.
It's like, just I knew it was from California. I was like, oh, that's it.
and I also happen to live in the backyard where Green Day was founded. So, you know, Trey Cools are also there.
On a few levels.
Yeah.
And I guess what I was saying is some of the questions I've been getting are kind of in that vein of like, you know, what is the protocol? How do I implement it? How do I, as an IT professional, how do I, you know, adopt it or learn about it to support it? So they're kind of not exactly like what's the spec, but because that feels like for more someone who's going to like implement it, but they're in the sort of, and I don't have, I'm running this experiment for like a week so far. So, and the sample size is maybe 30 or 40 people at this point. And the people I'm thinking of are like maybe 5 to 8 questions or something like that. People have asked those kind of questions, but they're in that space. So we could start that kind of discussion now, might be helpful. Maybe surface some of it to the website and the documentation. I think that might be a good thing to do.
We're running on short of time, but maybe next time around, Brian, or offline, you can rope more of us into helping with that. Great initiative. Well done for setting that up.
Oh yeah, no problem. Thanks. And you know, I kind of it takes time to bake the data and get all the info, so it just was going to put it out there and collect and watch and then report back probably in the next week or two. I was just giving you a heads up on this particular topic.
Okay. Marketing and comms, community organization. We've talked about. There's a number of tools. Just an ROI calculator. So if anybody's working on tools, again, this is a great thing. Let's get that surfaced up to the dashboard. I think NPM, by the way, Kyle, would have been an appropriate addition here.
Yep.
Okay, so it's a good way to claim the skin, right? Officially, if this is here, then we can retire the item. And as we, I'd really like in the summers for us to get to the point where, as we go into these meetings, it's like, okay, let's retire it. Yay, we do a golf clap and we move on, right? And so it just feels like real momentum. So again, strongly encourage you, if you're working on something, make sure that it rolls up to something here. And NPM would have been a good example of that. On security, security work has now begun. And we have several security folk that are working on it. And I think that it would be a good idea as we look to September and who's going to be on the TSC, or as we do the voting, and as we go forward into the summer, I'll make sure that I'll report on setting up voting for September for the TSC. Anybody that wants to stay on the TSC, make sure you start campaigning the community. By the way, in order to vote, you need to have merged, even a spell check to master. I think that's the contribution requirement. That speaks to something that we don't have time to go into today, but we really want to see. There is a ton of work going on in branches, and unfortunately, what that means is that it looks like when you come in, all that work doesn't. It looks like just a fairly small number of contributors. So I want to encourage folks that are doing work in branches, maybe push some, do a pull request for something up to master so that your name gets on the list, so that we know that you're, that you're out there doing work, et cetera. So a lot of security work going on, and that'll be a bigger and bigger topic going forward. Integrations was really, look at this, right? So these are, even though stuff that isn't fully fleshed out here is happening, right? Product UI and record locking kit, the Docusign Integration Kit. Kyle, are you finished with that? You know, the date that you were thinking about is past.
No, it's I mean, it's just all part of the same workflow. We have the integration with Docusign. You know, check with one of our guys, but yeah, I mean, it's just really sort of been blocked or waiting on this init core merge because I just feel like it's been it's going to make a lot more sense to show it off in that context.
Right on. And I also like next week we have and it's not on here, but the Google Sheets integration is finished and will be dropped next week. And then there's a call for an Excel integration after that. There's the gas service is a project that I can say that my team at Consensus is going to be working heavily on, so that companies that want to use baselining as a way of doing things don't have to don't have to hold crypto to do it. That's going to be a big tentpole for us. And tokenization and asset management will be the big subject for Monday on the SSC, and anybody on the TSC, of course, can join the SSC on Monday. We will be talking about the big tentpole for the summer, which is tokenizing an invoice and then putting it onto an asset management system like Codify or some other. That'll be a big project. All good. There's also key features. We'll wrap here, but ZK service. So Zach and Karthik, I know you guys are really focused on that. Let's get those engineering tasks surfaced up to the dashboard here, please. There's one kind of sitting here on ZK circuit libraries. Karthik, let's talk about that one offline maybe. Brantley, if you're still on, yep. It's great to have you here again.
Yep, I'm here.
Identity is, specifically corporate identity, and identity is a charged word, so let me be careful in my words here. But knowing that you are working, that you have an endpoint for messaging and an account that is verifiably the company you think you're working with, right?
Yeah, I was just talking to Everest people about this recently.
Fantastic. Maybe you can report on that. And of course, you can report on Slack with the team anytime you want.
Okay.
But feel free to go in and add some items, some epics and tasks and that sort of thing. So that's where we're at. And we are at time. I'll apologize. There's a bunch of distractions that happened this morning. I wasn't as well organized as I'd like to be on these things as I was today. So we'll endeavor to make that better next week or next time. 2 weeks from now, everyone is okay? All right, well, we'll set it for 2 weeks from now.
Thanks, John. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Have a nice day.
See ya.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Cheers.